Okay, this is Toby from Heavyweight MMA, here today with judoka and former MMA fighter, four-time Olympian, owner coach of Resilience Training Centre, Footscray, Melbourne, Victoria, coming to us at 7:30 a.m. from Budapest in Hungary. How are you, Mr. Dan Kelly?
Very good, Toby. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So I just 7:30. You've set that time at 7:30 morning. You're normally an early riser.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of girls who are here. One competing in the Olympics. They're downstairs doing some conditioning training. I'm at the club we're training at in Hungary at the moment. So yeah, it's nice to get up early, and it was 40 degrees here yesterday, so it was a bit of a sticky night. So I was up early.
Wow. I looked up, I thought you might have been there for another purpose. I just looked up quickly Budapest, and I saw there was a World Judo Championship June 6 to 12. I was wondering if you're involved in that one.
Yeah, we were there. One of the girls got to the quarterfinal stage, finished top 8. So we're there, and then because every time we have to go home, we have to do 2 weeks hotel quarantine, we'll stay away now until the games.
Awesome. That was that her last name Coughlin, was it?
Yes, Aoife. Yeah,
Aoife. Yeah, I was looking at that name, struggling to pronounce the first name. But yeah, 70 kilos. She came 7th. How was her performance?
Yeah, good. Very good. Still some improvements to make, but she's had a really breakout year and secured direct qualification into the Olympics, because our Olympic qualifications are world ranking list. So over a 2-year period, obviously there was a year off during COVID, and this last 6 months she's really come on and yeah, got direct qualification, which is a really big deal.
Awesome. I was just trying to look you up, and I see that the first thing that pops up when you put Dan Kelly into the computer is the Ned Kelly and his brother. I was wondering if you had any relation to the old Bushrangers.
I'd like to say that I do, but I'm pretty sure we don't. So
I was thinking that'd be a pretty cool fight name, actually, Dan Bushranger Kelly, but it sounds a bit suggestive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just looking online, I can see the record, but I just want to confirm, what's your MMA record? It says 17 fights, 13 wins. Is that one correct, or it's incorrect?
No, I think so. Yeah, 13-4. I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. And you had 10 fights in the UFC with 6 wins and 4 losses. Nice to be on the positive side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Got a little bit long in the tooth towards the end, so yeah.
But it's not quite the end, though, is it? In your mind, it's not quite the end, right? I was listening to some of your interviews, and you still got a bit of an itch there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming less of an itch as I get further over 40, but I'm 44 this year, so
yeah.
So yeah, it's getting less and less an itch, and especially with all this travel, it's not so easy.
Yeah. Now, I've been having a look at a few of your fights. Of course, I'd seen some before, but having a look again just to refresh my memory. Sam Alvey, Kamosi, Rashad Evans, Derek Brunson, Elias Theodoro, some nice, difficult, strong opponents there. Any of these opponents stand out to you? Any of the fights stand out to you as particularly memorable?
Or unmemorable. I mean, the Derek Brunson one wasn't pleasant. I've lost about 45 minutes of time there that I've never gotten back. Look, I got the opportunity to fight it, in front of big crowds in Vegas, co-main event, obviously. So it's a bit of a blur. The Rashad Evans one's obviously probably the highest profile one. The Kamosi fight was really special because I fought that on my son's birthday. That was in front of a home crowd in Melbourne. That was a packed Rod Laver Arena. So yeah, that's a big one. The win against Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr., that was a good one because I came from behind. So yeah, some nice moments in there.
And then what about the judo side of thing? Obviously, there'd be some high-profile fights you've had over the years. Any of those sort of competitions stand out for us that don't really know too much about judo?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, probably my first 2 Olympics, Sydney and Athens are probably the best ones. Got some very good wins in both of those. Pardon me, walking out for the opening ceremony in Sydney. It's probably one of my favorite sporting moments ever. If it's not a sporting moment, but like being involved in that was awesome. So yeah, it all becomes a bit of a blur now, and I'm not someone who really looks back that much. It's more looking to the next thing kind of doing. I'm sure I'll have time to reflect when I'm 60 or 70 sitting on a couch, but at the moment, more concerned about getting the guys ready for the Olympics. When I get home, we've got an MMA team as well, got the business. So it's more looking forward rather than looking back.
I was listening to a young up and coming fighter doing an interview yesterday, and he was talking about his drive that he would like to represent Australia in mixed martial arts. And coming to someone like you that's competed on that high level in judo many times and MMA, what was that feeling like in the beginning? Was it a very proud sort of time, overwhelming, whatnot, being the guy representing our country?
In judo, absolutely. I mean, it was my dream from when I was 8 years old to qualify for Olympics. Luckily, my first one was in our home country, and that was the best. That was the best. And MMA, when myself and Jake got into the UFC, Jake was like 5-6 months before me. I knew nobody in the UFC when I got in. When I got in, kind of thing. I mean, I trained with George Soteropoulos wrestling years before, but we had no connection leading in. So I had to kind of figure out it all ourselves. And now at our strongest, we had 4 guys at the gym fighting in the UFC at the same time. So it was, it was good, but it's also a pathway thing for other people to make it more accessible as well.
Yep. And you just mentioned that you started when you were 8. What was the first time you kind of walked into a gym? Was it pushed by your parents, or you just decided to, or what was the start?
No, Dad did judo. So when I was 7, he took me down, and I just never really stopped. I was a small, scrawny kid and just stuck at it. And then when I hit about 16, good things started to happen, and just kept going from there.
That's awesome. Was that just like because your father's doing it, you just do it, and it's like, oh, I do this because my dad does this, and this is what we do? Is that how it kind of worked? Or
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I used to play Aussie rules footy as well on the weekend, and then about 16 had to make a choice between footy or judo, and I stuck with judo, and which I'm glad I did. And it was just something we just did.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good. Hey, just talking about judo, it kind of reminded me again of an old fighter, Conor Poirier. Did you ever watch him fight? He was an old judo guy, allegedly an old judo guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, he had some very cool judo throws and straight into submissions, like his sacrifice technique straight into a Kimura was very good. But he's old school, Conor Poirier.
And are there any other key UFC guys other than yourself that have been high level judo players? Other than there was that Cuban guy that
Hector.
Hector. I forgot his name for a second. A lot of people don't
Hector
like him.
I mean, obviously Ronda's the most famous one.
Yep.
Ronda paved the way, but there was Hector. There's a couple of guys who are like, there's a Welsh guy, I can't remember his name. He was in a junior national team. Olivier. Olivier from Canada. He was in the Canadian junior national team. He was on the Ultimate Fighter show too. So there's a few guys who have got reasonably high level judo and have crossed over.
Yeah. And just reading a little bit about you. You said you had a couple of stand-up fights, and obviously fought in judo, now fought in MMA. I'm imagining you may have done submission grappling too. I'm not really sure. How do the different sort of fight codes compare in terms of competition for you? Like, some may be more intense than others, etc.
I wrestled at Commonwealth Games as well, and then I have done BJJ. For me, it's just being able to win under different skill sets, and that's I think that's part of being a high-level athlete, and it's fun being able to beat people in their chosen game and chosen sport, and being able to navigate through that, because in a combat sports match, in judo at a high level, MMA at a high level, you're gonna have to be able to navigate and be able to change tactics on the fly, kind of thing. And fighting in other sports against people who are experienced in it actually gives you an opportunity to do that.
And so for you, it sounds like you've got pretty much a technical aspect of like it's a skill against skill. It doesn't get overwhelmed by example. What I'm thinking is, from my experience, which is nothing like yours, experience of stand-up and BJJ competitions, the stand-up seems so much more intense when someone's coming at you to kill you with punches versus grappling sort of exchanges seems a little bit more intense. Do you feel that at all, or you don't feel that because you're just thinking of the technical side?
It depends on the level
maybe
of the other person. Depends on the level of the other person. I mean, I've been exhausted grappling against a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, but against someone who's, not as high level or similar level to me striking, it's different. So it all depends on the person you're doing it with. And if you've got the fundamentals right, and I love competition. So anytime I can compete and test myself in those different kind of areas, then I'm all for it.
And that kind of jumps to one point I had. I was listening to one of your podcasts again. It said, you mentioned about jokingly about that you've got control issues. Obviously, MMA is something that you are the one in control, right? Once you're in the ring in any type of competition, MMA, judo, any of these combat sports is one-on-one. You're the one in control. And wondering, other than your control issues, do you have any key attributes that made you successful? Some of the guys I talk to, it's like they're really driven. Is that the sort of thing that you have as a key attribute too?
I'm not sure. I try and break everything down now that I coach a lot into structure, process, consistency, those kind of things. Obviously, if the drive's there to do those things, because it's not always fun or pleasant, then obviously you're going to do well. But going off my key attributes, I was pretty stubborn, obviously. I had the capacity to compete at a couple of sports at a pretty high level. I think it's just, I don't know, just the ability to adapt, the ability to adapt and a willingness to work hard. And they're probably two of the key things.
Yep. Just it kind of reminds me of talking to Cameron Quinn a little bit, how they break a lot of things down into achievable goals, etc. Is that something you think could have come from a Japanese mindset at all with the judo style, or that's just completely different, just your way?
No, it's a high performance sport background, and I probably carried that across from judo, and even the way I coach MMA now, it's very, very repetition based, very theme based for a long period of time on a set of techniques, so that they're honed in and locked into muscle memory. And even then, we still have to go back over them periodically to make sure that they're still dialed in correctly. But I mean, there's no magic wand to wave. There's the flashy stuff's good, but if things aren't going well, you've always got to go back to your fundamentals to restart again.
Yep. Talking about the different codes as well. What would you personally? What do you feel is the hardest sort of code to train in?
Judo is the hardest sport to do training wise. I mean, I stopped competing in judo because my body just couldn't cope with it anymore, but my body could cope with the MMA training because there's a lot of different aspects that you have to work on. So if your body's beat up from grappling, you can do your striking. If you beat up from striking, you can do your grappling. Some of it you can do standing, some on the ground, whereas judo, it's the same thing 6 days a week, all year round. You're competing 12 times a year. So the training in judo is a lot harder, but the damage in the fights for MMA is probably harder. So the competition damage in judo isn't anywhere near as heavy as the fights in MMA, but the training's a lot harder than MMA training is.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on the judo side of things, that you're doing the same thing a lot. What other sort of parts go into being a judo champion? Like, is it broken down into like those general areas of, fitness, cardio, strength, diets, etc., the same as you would for the current sort of pro MMA style training?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, anytime you do on mat stuff, it's judo. But all the strength conditioning, all all that stuff's done. The guys train 11, 12, 13 times a week kind of thing. They're the same high performance mindset as an MMA fighter. They're just amateur athletes.
Yep. And right now, do you train both professional MMA fighters as well as judoka, etc.?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm not doing much of the MMA because I'm overseas. I've been overseas this year. I've been overseas 16 weeks already.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah. But I mean, obviously, we're still involved, still videoing in and chatting to the guys at home as well.
Awesome. Hey, I just wanted to ask you too. I heard some small rumors before about judo and some danger for kids to train judo, etc. Some deaths, etc., in Japan and this sort of thing. I wondered, what's your thoughts on that? Like, how does it compare from your perspective? Like, I don't know. I've only heard headlines that might be bullshit. So,
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. There were some things in Great Britain around kids getting concussion. We've got about 100 kids do judo at my club at home, and we don't have any issues with that. Judo is a great sport for kids. They learn how to fall properly, learn how to socialize, learn a little bit of respect and discipline. They learn about body awareness. I think that's a whole heap of bullshit from the Japanese perspective. So.
Yep. And then just thinking also, like, always, it's just something that plagues my mind a little bit is, like every person I know, such as yourself or other people that have gone on to be professional in these combat type sports have so many injuries, be it back, knees, whatever, CTE, etc. What are your thoughts on that? Like, putting kids into these sort of sports that may eventually end up with injuries and whatnot?
So my aim when any kid does judo is for them to do it for 3 years, because it's going to help them if they go and play Aussie rules. You think about all the damage Aussie rules players now have to their bodies, or rugby players. Any sport you want to do at the pointy end, you're going to have some wear and tear on your body later on. But for a healthy life and a healthy lifestyle, it's important to do sport. So kids doing judo for 3 to 4, 5 years at a recreational level and doing some competitions so that they can deal with that kind of anxiety and that failure, because it's very important for kids to learn how to lose as well as learn how to win, is really, really important. And judo is an avenue for that in a very safe, controlled environment. There's no striking in judo. It's very controlled. If you've got good coaches, the kids are safe. So I always look at the positive aspects of it. In terms of injuries and stuff like that, any sport you do at a high level, you're going to get injured. You're going to get sore and hurt because you're pushing your body past the limits that it should be pushed.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Echoing exactly my thoughts. The other thing I kind of think it's very good for any of these sort of combat sports, if it's done in a controlled manner, is that getting a knock sometimes too, same as playing a game of footy, right? Just toughen them up again a little bit, make their bodies used a little bit more resilient than they would be if they didn't have any contact or impact, right?
Absolutely. Well, in judo, the kids are dealing with somebody else's body weight all the time in a very controlled way, and it's important. The problem with I sound like a really old man now, but a big problem with society now is kids not learning how to deal with adversity. Now, in a controlled environment, it's really important because you need to learn how to lose. You need to learn how to win. You need how to learn to deal with anxiety and nerves, because going for a job interview is going to be nervous, preparing for that, dealing with the fact if you don't get a job, moving forward again. So there's skills for life, in my opinion.
Yep. Now, we don't have too much time, but can you list through a couple of the injuries that you've had? I know you've had a few, right?
Yeah, look, my body's pretty beaten up, but I showed no respect to my body through my sporting career. So any pain that I'm in daily now is deserved, and I have to accept it. But my neck, my shoulder, my knee, my wrists, my elbows, my ankles my back are all average, but that's a price you pay.
Yeah. Is it such that, like, right now, if you think about it, you're in a bit of pain, or no, just out of interest?
Yeah, my knee's sore today. I did some exercise, not yesterday, day before, and it's sore, but I've needed surgery on this knee for about 9 years. So, but
you're pretty staunch, man.
From doing things.
You're pretty staunch. I heard you. I heard you in your interview with Tai Two of Us are saying, get surgery, carry on. It's just part of professional sport. That's pretty staunch, man.
Well, it is. I mean, but that's only at the pointy end. Like people doing it recreationally don't have to deal with that kind of thing. I chose to push it to a higher limit, and that's a byproduct of it.
Yeah, understand. What are your thoughts on CTE as part of maybe not so much judo, but with more of the stand-up sports, etc., and what practices can kind of reduce that risk?
It's difficult. I changed my perspective around sparring a lot. I mean, we spar once with big gloves a week, once with smaller gloves a week to manage that. Because over time, but they're only starting to do research on that now. And a percentage, I want to know what kind of percentage it is of the whole high performance community that are being affected by it, or is it a small percentage? And it's only the ones we hear about, which is a very small percentage, that are highlighted. But it comes down to our training load and how you manage training. That's the big thing. And the hard thing is you're going to get hit in the sport you're going to do. So you have to practice getting hit, but it's not practice getting hit to get knocked out. So it's a very fine line. And yeah, especially AFL footballers now, and the rugby league players, and the gridiron players in America. It's a big thing, but they're getting that impact a lot at a 100% velocity, more so than what our guys are.
Yep. You talk about AFL, I just think aerial ping pong, man. I'm from New South Wales. That's all. I'm still in that mindset, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a thing in AFL that they're looking at it now as well, the CTE.
Yep, true. And you mentioned before about being out for losing 45 minutes of your life after getting KO'd. Can you talk about that, like how it felt, or etc.?
Didn't feel anything. 1 minute I was in the cage fighting. The next time I remember, I was sitting in an ambulance. So apparently I was up walking around, but yeah, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant getting knocked out, but to be honest, a mate of mine said it's probably 45 minutes you don't want to remember.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
It's amazing, right?
That's part of the sport. That's part of the sport.
Yeah. Once I had a fight, and it was my first fight. I thought it went one way, and then maybe 15 years later, I got the video, and what I thought had finished in the first round didn't. I just kicked on in automatic mode until I got finally finished in the end. But I just thought I got KO'd straight away, but I didn't. It's amazing that you just forget everything and everything goes into autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Actually, listening to Dan Hooker the other day too, talking about his last fight when he got knocked down, he said he's thinking everything's going fine, and the next thing he woke up and his head's on the canvas and he's thinking this is not good. And he said he's trying to get his legs to move. He's counting 1, 2, 3, go, and they're not going because he's just out of it. Yeah, scary thing. Now,
yeah, exactly.
Now, again, being a high performance athlete, fighting at a top level, I'm interested in your psychology. Like, how do you prepare for combat and when you're fighting bigger opponents, people that are known to be, probably terrifying, etc.? How did you prepare?
This is interesting, and I say this a lot. I suffered with extreme anxiety through my whole sporting career. Before I used to fight in MMA, I used to retch and sometimes vomit the day of the fight, and that never ever went away. I just had to accept that was part of what I had to endure mentally to be able to get in and fight. I was normally a little bit of a slow starter, but once a minute or two passed, I was normally okay. But I was very, very nervous all through my judo career, all through my MMA career. So the anxiety never goes away. It's just how you manage it and make sure that it doesn't cripple you and not let you perform to the best of your abilities. That's probably the key thing, that you just have to accept that you're going to be nervous and anxious.
Yeah. And what advice do you give to your guys that are upcoming about fight psychology?
Exactly that. And always stick to your structures and process. That's the key thing. If you're consistent, stick to your structure and process, everything will be okay. And everything flows on from there because you've done it so many times that you should be able to build on that.
Yep. And talking about psychology, being a retired, or not really retired, someone that stopped fighting, how do you handle that as far as, you've been at the top of a few sports, now you're not competing actively at the moment. How does that feel, ego-wise, etc.?
That's a good question. I'm happy. I like coaching. I love coaching. It's probably more nerve-wracking coaching than it is fighting yourself because I've got control over what's going on when I fight. It's not easy to let go. I retired a few times in judo. And yeah, no, look, it's getting easier as I get older. I mean, like I said, I'm 44 this year. The train has to stop at some point. You can't keep it rolling on, Yeah. So yeah, it takes a little while. There's still like thoughts, but I just think about how would you feel trying to cut back to 84 kilos again. How would you feel training 11 times a week again? And then I just go, yeah, that's why. It's not the fight that's scary. It's the preparation for the fight that's scary now.
Understood. I know BJJ has like masters divisions. I'm imagining judo probably would. I know wrestling does. Are you interested in anything like that? Not at all.
If I can't fight and compete in normal ages and weights, then I'm not interested. It's
Fair enough. Why is that?
And it's that's my ego. That's my ego. And it's not to say that it's fantastic. It's great that people can go and compete and train at an older age, but yeah, it's not for me. Not for me.
Just out of interest, obviously, like you said, you've had certain injuries, a lot of experience. Interested in what you have to say about training as an older athlete, what things, how to best structure it. I heard you mention quality over quantity before. What's your advice on that?
Like for structuring a training week?
For older athletes, people that are probably 35 plus.
Yeah, manage your training load. Make sure you're very warm. Don't let your ego take over. Be on the mat because you enjoy it. If you're competing at a high level and you're older, then they already know what to do. I mean, you hear a lot of the guys like Cowboy or Max Holloway, who have been fighting for 1,000 years and have had 30, 40 fights, say they don't spar that much, but they've already got all that experience. So that's at the end of their career. When the young guys come in and go, oh, I don't want to spar, I don't want to look after my body. Like, you need to do it in a controlled, managed way, but you haven't got anywhere near the miles in the tank to be able to say and dictate what you're going to do. Like one of the guys who's nearly 40, well over 30 and had a heap of experience, you've got to, and I'm not saying you're going to smack your head into a wall, but there's times to do certain things.
Yep, true. Just jumping on, I had a little listen to the Half Cast podcast with Tired Tuivasa and had me laughing then. I was actually doing this thing in hospital where I had things stuck on my face and I wasn't supposed to move much. And I'm trying not to laugh too hard at him talking about how you used to communicate in Morse code back when they first put you in UFC and Fabio punched the fuck out of you and this and that. He's just a funny guy, right?
Yeah.
Recommend that podcast to anyone who wants to laugh. So I only got a couple of quick questions to go. Any, people have been in the gym for a long time. There's always some sort of funny stories about strange characters that have popped in the gym or funny things that have happened. Have you got anything that comes to mind?
It's pretty funny a lot of the time in there. I mean, we've got guys like a very good friend of mine who I've trained with a lot, Callum Potter, used to fight in the UFC. He's funny. If you open his training bag, it stinks worse than a garbage bin. But he's getting a little bit better now that he doesn't fight anymore. It's hard. There's lots of funny guys.
Any strange cats that have wandered in, man, off the street?
Oh yeah, we've had some strange cats come in. I love that when they want to come in and they go, I want to fight. I want to do UFC. Well, oh, okay, cool. What sport do you want to start in? Oh, no, I want to do all of them. Oh, no, okay. Because we always say, look, maybe do a little bit in one sport and then like navigate. No, I want to do all of them. I say, well, you kind of got to pick and choose what you want to do. And then they're like, oh, I'll find somewhere else. And it's perfect. Thank God. Please go somewhere else. So we get a bit of that. And obviously in our training group, we've got some pretty strong guys. We get a lot of guys who come into our pro sessions and they only end up staying once and then they disappear again. It's not for them. But yeah, no, it's a little bit better now. And obviously with COVID and stuff, the crazies died down a little bit. And we've got a pretty good amateur team building up at our gym now as well, which is fun. Yep.
And just out of interest, have you had any street altercations or anything outside of the gym in the general sort of area? No.
No, not especially not since I've been a grown up.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't. I had my first son at 26, 27. So I'm a pretty boring guy, to be honest.
Yeah. And if you were, what would be your go-to technique, do you think, in a street situation?
No, not really.
Sorry, did you catch that, Daniel? You there, mate? Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, you froze. You froze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, back. I just wanted to know if you were in an altercation, what do you think you'd be your go-to technique outside? I mean,
Definitely. Uh, we definitely throw them to get them away from you. That'd be about it. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't really dealt with many altercations before, which is good.
yeah, and just a couple of ones to finish. Favorite fighter, could be past or present? MMA.
Jimmy Crute, Jake Matthews. Always loved GSP.
Yeah. Jimmy Crute's looking awesome, man. I can't wait to see him fight again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And just your
Jake
thoughts
Matthews too. Jake Matthews is up and coming.
Yeah, awesome. I'll have another look at him. Just wanted to know your thoughts on Conor Poirier 3. What are your feelings on that one?
I'm a big Conor fan. His coach, John Kavanagh, is an awesome guy, great guy. I hope he wins. He's been great for the sport in terms of the marketing side of things. We'll see. We'll see if he can go back to the old Conor a little bit.
What adjustments do you think you need to make?
A little bit less boxing stancey, a little bit more of the old Conor style, I think.
That long range kick stance, moving into punching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Which you'll do. I mean, John Kavanagh's a genius, so they'll figure it out.
Great. All right. Thank you. Is there anything you want to mention before we head off?
I'm all good. Come down if you're
Perfect.
in Melbourne. Come down and check out Razoon's training centre. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much for having me on.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that sometime in the future I could contact you again, Dan, for maybe some more breakdown of some technique, etc. If you have time.
Yeah, for sure. No problems at all.